This part of the course is titled Learn Hypnosis. And the reason why this is titled Learn Hypnosis in an NLP course is because it's essential that we understand hypnosis and how to do hypnosis in order to utilize NLP. This is because NLP comes from primarily studying the work of Milton Erickson. And in studying the work of Milton Erickson, Bandler and Grinder, when they outlined the basic tenets of NLP and what NLP is all about, used a model of bringing your client into trance, using hypnosis essentially as the delivery mechanism for the NLP patterns and the NLP techniques. Now, what I'm going to teach you right now is formal hypnotic induction. You're going to learn how to hypnotize somebody right here, right now, as if we were always going to do formal inductions as a hypnotherapist. Now, in much of our coaching work and much of our work in NLP, we're not going to utilize formal trance. The reason why I'm teaching you the formal process of trance right now, even if you don't plan on doing hypnotherapy, is because whether we go through the process formally or whether we go through the process informally, it's the same process. I own the Tulsa Hypnosis Center, and so people can make an appointment to see Richard for hypnosis. That's why they call and make an appointment. They don't call to see me for therapy. They don't call me for, medical care. I'm not a doctor. They don't call me for anything other than hypnosis. So if somebody sees my advertisement or a referral tells them about me, those clients expect that I'm going to hypnotize them. So in my office, I almost always do a formal process of hypnotherapy. And in that process, the first thing I do is I visit with somebody for a period of time in my office, usually about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I do two things during this process. The first thing is I do assessment, and I make some determinations about the person I'm working with and what their needs are. And the second thing I do in this process is I do what's called a pre-talk in the hypnosis business. And the pre-talk is all about normalizing the process of hypnosis and helping the client who's before me understand how to participate in the process. Now, people sometimes say to me, what if somebody doesn't want to be hypnotized? That doesn't happen to me, because people don't call the Tulsa Hypnosis Center, make an appointment with the hypnotist, and then show up in my office and pay me and then not want to be hypnotized. Right. So the whole fear of what if I have resistant clients, what if I have somebody who doesn't want to be hypnotized, in the setting where I'm working, it doesn't happen. Why would it happen? Who would call a hypnotist, make an appointment, pay the hypnotist, because I collect my money up front, and then say, well, I don't want to do this. It doesn't happen. Maybe it happens in the bungee jumping business where somebody pays the fee and gets on the platform, and then the fear kicks in, but it doesn't happen in my office. Now, because I hypnotize people all day long, every day in my office, you can actually make an appointment with me and see me for hypnosis. If you ever decide to take a hypnosis training course, take a hypnosis training course from somebody who actually does hypnosis. There are a whole lot of people out there who took the Train the Trainer course and have never actually seen clients. And there are a lot of really good hypnosis trainers out there, lots of them. In fact, Sid is one of them, and he's in the area here. There are a number of decent trainers here in the Dallas area. There are also a lot of really lousy trainers. So I actually see clients. You can make an appointment with me. I saw a guy yesterday before I came over here. It was part of the reason why I got here so late. I had lots of things to do, and I had a client I needed to follow up with yesterday. And so this is what I do in my office with folks. I hypnotize them. Now, in addition to doing clinical hypnosis, most of you know, I also occasionally do stage hypnosis as well. And I enjoy doing stage hypnosis. And if you're coming to the party Saturday night, you're going to see John Sorbonne and I do a two-person show, which is always kind of fun. And we're going to have a blast. We're going to have a great time. Even if we're talking about stage hypnosis, it's the same process as clinical hypnosis. Hypnosis is hypnosis. And I actually use the same induction and the same induction that I'm going to teach you in my office as I do when I do stage hypnosis. Now, John and I may be doing some creative things and some outside of the box things just based on this group and our ability to do some creative things. John Sorbonne is the creator of Speed Trance, And John and I have been working together for the last 5-6 years and have produced a lot of videos on rapid induction and instant hypnosis. And we'll probably incorporate some of that into what we're doing on Saturday night, which may be different than when we perform in Las Vegas or when we're doing a corporate party or something like that. But even when we do rapid hypnosis induction, the same elements that I'm going to teach you right here, right now, are the same elements that we're doing on stage. We're just doing it in 7 seconds rather than in 7 minutes. But because I want you to have an understanding of trance and the usefulness of trance as a resource for NLP, I'm going to teach you a basic process of hypnosis. Now, some of you are already hypnotists and you're as experienced and skilled as I am. That's great. This will be review for you. For some of you, this is completely new. And I'm passing around an outline right now, which outlines, I think, the magic number 17, but I'm not sure. The 17 steps or stages that I use in hypnosis. By the way, if you're watching this on video, you can actually go to my website, subliminalscience.com, and you can download the notes for free. And so they're in the free resources section there at subliminalscience.com. You can also get the notes at icbchforum.com, because I post everything in the internet forum. Now, those of you who are here, don't worry, later on I'll give you a zillion resources, so you don't need to be writing those resources down now. I'll give you a sheet that has all of these resources. But what this is a basic outline for a basic hypnotic script. And for our purposes, there are 5 steps or 5 stages in the hypnotic process. Now, let's back up for a minute though, and talk a little bit about trance. Richard Bandler says something that I agree with 100%, that I think is really interesting. We don't actually hypnotize anyone. What we really do is make the trance state they're in useful. Bandler's idea is that we actually are always in trance. We have our parenting trance, we have our teaching trance, we have our studenting trance, we have our I'm really tired, it's the end of the day, spacing out trance, we have our angry trance, we have our I need to sleep trance, we have our I am asleep trance, we have our I don't want to get out of bed trance, we have our I'm excited to start the day because there's a new opportunity trance, and these are all forms of trance. And I see trance, like Bandler does, as natural phenomena. This is really where the idea of coaching comes into play. I don't do anything to anybody. I tell this to clients all the time. This takes the mystery and the mystique and the sort of some of the misperceptions of hypnosis away. I let my clients know I'm not actually going to be hypnotizing you. I'm going to be like a coach, and I'm going to be guiding you through a process that's already within you. And so the first thing I do in the hypnotic process when I have somebody in my office is I do a pre-talk. And in the pre-talk, I obviously build rapport, which, as we talk about core NLP strategies tomorrow, is something that some people are natural at, some people need more practice than others at. All of us can benefit by increasing our skills in rapport building, and that's really going to be our starting point for NLP core skills tomorrow. For now, let's leave it at a very basic level. When a client comes to my office, the first thing they do is they walk through my door. I know they're coming because I have windows. I don't have ESP. I wish I did, but I don't. And because I'm expecting them, I know they're coming, and I can see them before they get to my office. And so when they come in the door, I stand up and I greet them with a handshake. That is rapport building. It lets them know you're welcome, and I direct them to what chair to sit. By the way, that's my first suggestion. Because hypnosis is about creating a set of suggestions that people are going to respond to. And so if my first suggestion, although it's a very basic suggestion, is here, have a seat here, and they don't sit there, well, then they're not following my suggestions. If they don't follow that suggestion, how are they going to follow my suggestion later on to view a buffet as an opportunity to make one of many healthy food choices in the correct portion? Which is an example of a suggestion I might give to a weight loss client. So really, the pre-talk begins the process of suggestion. And so I build rapport. I'm more than happy to answer any questions about hypnosis. I'm more than happy to answer any questions about me. The most popular questions that clients ask me about hypnosis are 2 things. One, how long have you been doing this? And I usually say to them, well, I just finished the book last week. And that's actually the 14th book I've written. And you can see around my office some of the books that I've written. The other question people ask me about hypnosis all the time is, have you ever used hypnosis yourself? Well, I've been doing hypnosis for 25 years, and so I've used it for lots of things. Number one, I used to be afraid to fly, and now I'm executive platinum on American Airlines 6 years in a row. I fly every other week. In fact, yesterday was absolute misery for me. It's the first time I had driven to Dallas in a long time. Greg will verify, it's lunch, great, I'm flying. And so I fly everywhere, and I overcame my fear of flying by using time distortion, one of the hypnotic phenomena that's produced, as a tool to manage and overcome my fear of flying. Now, the flight between Tulsa and Dallas kind of ticks me off because it's only 36 minutes. It's not enough time. I actually like the flight from Dallas to Tokyo because that's a great opportunity to spend a long time in trance or meditation and really enjoy the peace and solitude of no cell phones, no emails, no teenagers, no dog, and none of the other distractions that we have in life. And so those are the two most common questions that people ask me during the pre-talk, because they want to know that they are working with somebody who actually is competent at what they do. So if you're just learning hypnosis, you can't say, well, I learned hypnosis 25 years ago, I've written 14 books on the subject, and I've seen thousands of clients. Your answer would be a little bit different. Your answer would be, because I'm sure that many of you, if you haven't discovered it already in this course, will discover it between now and next Saturday. Your answer is going to be, I've been using methods of hypnosis in the work that I do, and I've been using methods of hypnosis in my own life for many years, because trance is natural phenomena, and all of us are hypnotized every single day. Recently, I've begun to use the formal process of hypnosis with clients, and you are going to really benefit from this experience. By the way, that was a direct suggestion. And so hypnosis is about direct suggestion. And we know that it's important to begin doing direct suggestion early on in the pre-talk, because Bandler and Grinder, when they created NLP, let us know what the true power of words were. And sometimes people say to me, people really aren't that suggestible. You can't simply say do this and they do that. Really? Tell that to Madison Avenue. Tell that to the people who spend $2.5 million for a 30-second Super Bowl ad and buy 2 of them during the first quarter. Tell that to Doritos and Frito-Lay, who pay the grocery stores to have their product on the end. Tell that to the merchandisers who put all that crap by the cash register. Tell that to Coca-Cola, who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for billboards. Yes, people do respond to the suggestions that they receive, and they certainly respond to suggestions that are given by somebody who they perceive as an expert. So that's how I answer those 2 questions. And of course, I've used hypnosis in my own life, not only to overcome my fear of flying. I actually quit smoking using hypnosis. I had surgery, as most of you know, a couple years ago. I have my feet are made out of metal, and they're all screwed together with nuts and bolts and braces and all kinds of things. And it was about a week after my surgery, my first foot surgery, and I went into the doctor's office. I got in there, and the nurse said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, okay," for somebody who just had their foot sliced open and their joints ripped out, thrown in the trash can, and then sewn back up. She said, "Do you need a refill?" I said, "Of what?" And she said, "Of your medication." I said, "What medication?" She said, your painkiller." I said, "Oh, no." She said, "What?" First patient she probably ever had who turned down the free narcotics. and I said to her, I can't have a refill because I never filled the first prescription. She said, "The doctor just sawed your foot open, took the joints out, threw them in the trash, and then screwed you together with a bunch of nuts and bolts, and you didn't take any medication?" And I looked at her and said, "I'm a hypnotist." I've practiced these principles in my own life. The research shows us that when we teach clients medical meditation, which is another word for self-hypnosis, there are 3 results. 1, we decrease complications. 2, we speed physical recovery and improve outcomes. And 3, our clients become less dependent on medications, or in many cases, don't need the medications. Now, in the pre-talk, I'm going to do a number of different things that are outlined here. I'm going to explain hypnosis. And the way I explain hypnosis to people is really pretty simple. Hypnosis is a natural state. It's a natural phenomenon. I'm not going to be doing anything to you. I'm actually going to be guiding you through a process that's really a natural process you go through each and every day. People sometimes say to me, what do you mean? We go through it every single day. My answer to this is really simple. Have you ever watched TV? Who's watched TV? Anyone here ever watched TV? Yeah, you watched TV. How many of you saw that movie Marley and Me? Went to the movie theater, saw the movie Marley and Me? Spoiler alert. The dog dies at the end of the movie. The movie's about Jennifer Aniston and Owen Wilson, and they're married, and they get this dog, and it's a puppy, and it's clumsy, and it's cute, and they raise this dog who keeps getting in trouble, sort of a mischievous puppy, and then they have kids, and their kids love the puppy, and they have 2.3 kids, or whatever the American dream is, and they move into a better house out in the country, and Marley's there for 14 years, and dogs don't last forever, and so the dramatic ending of the movie is when Marley dies, because Marley was an old dog. And the kids had raised Marley, and they're in tears, and Owen Wilson is in tears, and Jennifer Aniston is in tears, and I look around the audience, and everybody in the audience is in tears. There's not a dry eye in the theater. Here's the truth. Owen Wilson and Jennifer Aniston, I don't know why not, but they're not married. They both apparently can't get a date, and they're perfect for each other. Go figure. But they're not married. Guess what? It wasn't one dog. They used 14 dogs in the making of the movie Marley and Me. This was not a doggy stuff film. They didn't actually kill a dog to make the movie. There's no such thing as a doggy stuff film. They did not really kill the dog in order to make the movie. No dogs died during the making of this movie. We all know that everything is fake. And yet, every single person in the movie theater had a real physiological, physical, tears are real, response to the emotions they experienced because you became so absorbed in the story that it became something you emotionally and physically reacted automatically to. That's an example of hypnosis. Or how about this? You get in your car, you drive all the way home from work, and you're like, whoa, did I stop at the stop sign? Did I get bread at the store? Was I on the freeway? Has that ever happened to anyone, or just me?
Yeah.
Right? I got in my car yesterday, I left Tulsa, I got to Dallas and thought, whoa, did I forget to pick Kip up? I guess I did. So we're hypnotized every single day. You know, people say, well, what's an example of a trance state? The theta level of brain functioning. When I do clinical hypnosis, this is what I'm looking for. What I mean by the theta level of brain functioning is, sometimes people think, hey, you can get stuck hypnotized. Guess what? You can't get stuck hypnotized. Here's why. There's only 4 places for the mind to go. You can either be in the beta level of brain functioning, 18 to 40 cycles per second. That's very alert. This morning when I was driving over here, I'm not familiar with the underpasses here in Louisville, and I wasn't quite sure how to get over to go on the northbound lane, and I found myself in the left lane instead of the right lane, which is where I needed to be, and I had to pay attention at 70 miles an hour to not drive into the other cars. That's that beta level of brain functioning. But once I got onto the Stemmons Freeway and I was headed the direction that I was familiar with, I hit that alpha level of brain functioning. I wasn't so alert. I was more relaxed, especially since I was going against the flow of Dallas rush hour traffic. And I now knew where I was, and I was able to chill out, drive with one hand, you know, read a book, put on my mascara, whatever it is that people do when they're driving. Then I took my exit, and as I headed down this road, which I've done many times and could do in my sleep, I began to become even more relaxed because I knew I was going to be having an awesome breakfast in a few minutes with old friends like Ted, and some of you were here at breakfast this morning. And so there's that level of entering theta very relaxed. Now, the best example of theta brain level functioning is actually Thanksgiving dinner. Here's what happens after Thanksgiving, at least to me. After a big Thanksgiving dinner, I sit on the couch with the other lazy men. And we're all sitting on the couch, and our eyes close. And even though we're not asleep, we let the women who are doing the dishes think that we are. And although we know that we could open our eyes if we wanted to and help with the dishes, or we could open our eyes if we wanted to and actually get involved with and play with the children, we could do that, but it feels so good to let them think that you're asleep that you continue to simply relax and avoid any sort of responsibility or participation in family activities. Anyone else do that, or just me? just me. So there's an example of that theta level of brain functioning. You know, you could open your eyes, you could get up and get involved, you could even be helpful, but it feels so good to relax. That's that theta level of brain functioning. And then there's delta, deep sleep. This is where I was at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Have you ever had that experience? You go to sleep, you're really tired, you drove from Tulsa to Dallas. The alarm goes off in the morning, you're like, whoa, what happened to the night? Where was I? I slept like a rock. 1 to 3 cycles per second, that's that level of deep sleep. Now, unless you're dead, you can't go lower than that. And the only way to get over 40 is probably to hang out with Charlie Sheen, to have some really good cocaine. For the rest of us, unless we're hanging out with Charlie Sheen or we're dead, we're between 1 and 40 cycles per second. And hypnosis is most closely associated with that theta level of brain functioning. Now, that doesn't mean we can't create suggestibility in other brainwave states. You go to a stage hypnosis show and you may see clients experiencing anxiety or clients who are very active or participants, but that's a different type of hypnosis. So we're going to keep it simple here, and for the most part, we're going to associate hypnosis with that theta level of brain functioning. And even in stage hypnosis, it begins, even though we may be active later on, it begins by bringing a person into a state of deep relaxation. And so before we go any further, I want you to be able to experience what hypnosis feels like. Because a lot of people wonder, well, what does hypnosis feel like? And so if you've never been hypnotized before, you haven't been alive before. If you've never been formally hypnotized before, though, you may be wondering, what does this feel like? So I want to guide you through the process of simply what it feels like before we do any hypnosis. So go ahead and close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, in your mind, count to 5. Eyes closed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now open your eyes. Open your eyes. That's exactly what hypnosis feels like. It feels like you're sitting there in a chair, your eyes are closed, and somebody's counting to 5. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel any different than that. Sometimes people come into my office and they think they're going to be zonked, zapped, unconscious. None of that is true. In fact, if you were asleep or unconscious in my office and they gave you suggestions, you wouldn't hear them because you'd be unconscious, you'd be asleep. Same thing in a stage hypnosis show. If you were unconscious sometimes people are like, I'm not hypnotized, I'm not unconscious. Well, if you were unconscious, how could you get up and do silly things at my stage hypnosis show? Of course. And so people have this mistake that it's going to feel like some mystical, out-of-body, third world experience. It doesn't. It feels exactly like that. Now, clients come into my office and they say, all right, I get it now. I see that trance is a natural phenomena, that we enter and exit trance 7 times a day minimum. But how can it help me? I mean, am I going to close my eyes? You're going to hypnotize me. I'm going to go into a deep state of relaxation. I'm going to open my eyes and be 30 pounds lighter? Is that how that works? I wish. If it did, I would charge a lot more than $259 per session. That's not how it works. But it does work because in the process of hypnosis, I'm going to give a person suggestions for utilizing that creative part of the mind that produces real response. Just like real tears in Marley and Me, I don't make my clients cry in hypnotherapy, but just like real tears in the movie Marley and Me, I give them suggestions that are going to produce real physical responses. And so let me give you an example of this. You guys all have been to the movie theater and those lemon head candies, you know what I'm talking about? Those lemon head warhead candies, you know what I'm talking about? Sometimes when I meet somebody who grew up in a country other than the US, like my wife, they look at me like I'm from Mars because A, they didn't go to movies because they didn't have electricity, or two, they couldn't afford to go to movies and they didn't get that candy. But everyone here grew up in the US, and so you've all eaten that candy before. If I have a group, when I do this workshop in Houston, I don't do the lemon drop because nobody grew up in the US. So when I do this in Houston, I just use a real lemon because everybody's had a real lemon. But I kind of like the movie theater scenario. So this is something I actually do in my office to help clients understand what hypnosis is going to be like. So I'm going to do this with you. What I want everyone to do is hold out your hands just like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room, hold out your hand, Howie, and hold out your hand, And if you don't hold out your hand, I can't give you any imaginary candy. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around the room here and put a couple pieces of imaginary candy in everybody's hand. So everyone close their eyes, and I'm going to run around the room with your eyes closed. I'm going to put some imaginary candy in your hand. And this is that lemon head candy. You know what I'm talking about? Those warhead candies from the movie theater. Sugary on the exterior, sour on the interior. Don't eat it yet, though. Put that imaginary candy in your hand. There you go. All right, everyone's got a piece of imaginary candy. Now take your other hand, grab the imaginary candy, keep the eyes closed, and just pop that imaginary candy in your mouth. And when you do, taste that sugary exterior. Feel the sugary exterior on the hard candy melt away, and as it does, the sour, bitter, juicy interior of that lemon head candy begins to be the flavor, the dominant experience of the mouth, even feeling that salivation, tasting that lemon, chomping up the imaginary candy now with your teeth. Chomp, 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 chomp. Put your hands down. I'm not giving you any more imaginary candy. Swallow the imaginary candy. Swallow it up. And open your eyes. Now let's talk about what happened to you. What happened? How many of you salivated? Yeah, you can feel it, right? Right there, right. The majority of people in the room. How many of you felt that salivation kick in when you either bit into it or started thinking about it? Yeah, but 90% of the room. If you didn't salivate, how many of you could taste either the sugary exterior or the sour interior? And if you couldn't taste it, how many of you could actually feel the weight of that imaginary candy? You knew where it was. Your sense of I think it's propitiation, and that's the proprioception, right? Tells us where that, right? Tells the other thing's probably like sweating or something. Tells us where that
it's
can.
Theological term.
Right, right there we go. Okay, so but 90% of the people salivate. This is a real response. You know what? At no time did I hypnotize you. And at no time did I call this real candy. The whole time I said I was giving you imaginary candy. And even though I called it imaginary candy, you use that creative part of the mind to create a real experience. And that's what we do in hypnosis. We create real experiences from thought. Now we're getting into metaphysics, so I'll only stay here for 30 seconds. Otherwise, we're going to have Howie come up and teach us how to read the tarot in 30 seconds. I was listening to your CDs on the way here last night. Pretty interesting. But let me touch on metaphysics for a minute. Everything that exists today had to be a thought first. That computer Howie's typing on, the jacket he's wearing, my red Quick Trip cup, that apple. Everything that exists in our material world had to be a thought first. Nothing materializes automatically ex nihilo. It doesn't just show up. Everything that exists has to be a thought first. In order for a blue sport jacket to exist, somebody must think, you know, a jacket would look really good blue. And if I got some nylon fabric and if I sewed it together with a black stripe in it, man, that would look really cool. And let me cut out a pattern and let me get some fabric and let me sew it together and see how this works and does it look good or not. And they go through that process, and then the jacket exists. Nothing exists that wasn't a thought first. This is a very important concept in hypnosis. People want to know, how is it that I can make my dreams become a reality or make my hopes become real? It must be a thought first. And if you can think it, you can achieve it. Because anything that's thought of can become reality. And if you don't believe that's true, you've never seen a Hollywood prop department, or you've never seen a little kid with a Lego set. Because everything that can be thought of can actually be made into a reality. So there's your metaphysics lesson 101, but I think it ties into hypnosis because we're going to use that creative part of the mind in the process of hypnosis to bring a person to the theta level of brain functioning where the opposition to change or the opposition to the unknown, fear, or the opposition to creativity, because it requires action, can be set aside while direct suggestions are given. And after we do the pre-talk where we spend some time with the person doing, covering these things, then it's time to do the formal process of hypnosis. The formal process of hypnosis involves guiding a person into a trance state. In NLP, we might call this a resource state. Rather than hypnotizing somebody, we might say, I'm going to help you get into a resource state. So a hypnotist would say, close your eyes, deeply relax, taking a deep breath. It's at this point that we're going to enter hypnosis. If you're doing NLP or life coaching and you're not representing yourself as a hypnotist, you might simply say to a person, you've come here today because you've asked me to help you make some changes in the way that you blank, blank, blank. That's awesome. So in order to do this, I want you to be able to enter a resource state. So simply close your eyes and take in a deep breath. And as you exhale, bring yourself to that point where you're most creative. Guess what? That's actually a hypnotic induction. But we haven't called it hypnosis because hypnosis is a natural process, whether you call it hypnosis or call it something else. A teacher who wants to help her students pass exams says to them, I know a lot of you students have been pretty anxious the last couple days, and I'm about to pass out the exams. Hypnotic suggestion. But I know you're going to do really well because you've been paying attention and really studying hard the last couple of days. That was a hypnotic suggestion. And so, before I pass out the exams, everyone just close your eyes, take in a deep breath. And as you exhale, just let the muscles in your body relax. And any time while you're taking the test, you feel a sense of tension, just let those muscles relax. Take a break for a second, close your eyes. And when you're taking a breath, open your eyes, go back to the question, confidently choosing the answer that's best. That's another direct suggestion. And so now the school teacher, without getting in trouble from the school board, has used the process of hypnosis without calling it hypnosis. So these can be simple processes or they can be formal processes. I'm actually going to teach you the formal process of hypnosis. And the way to do hypnosis, the formal process of hypnosis, is to use a hypnotic induction. And the hypnotic induction that I find to be most effective involves four things. One, eye fixation. Now, how many of you have studied mindfulness or used mindfulness-based stress reduction in the work that you do or in your own life? Or yoga. Yoga does this too, even though they might not call it mindfulness. It's all about really focusing on the present, focusing on now, setting our thoughts aside and being able to bring it to a particular point. Okay? And so eye fixation really is about mindfulness. It's about letting go of the past moment and not anticipating the next moment and just attending to something in the present. That changes our state. Might not change it a lot, but it changes it a little. It could change it a lot too, by the way, depending on the person. But eye fixation is a great way to begin hypnosis because it brings us into the moment. I then couple that most often with progressive muscle relaxation. And people say to me, Richard, why do you use progressive muscle relaxation? I mean, you came up with speed trance and all these other cool inductions and blah, 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 but you always teach use progressive muscle relaxation. Yep, and that's what I actually do with my clients. The reason why is simple. It's non-threatening. It's not strange. Everybody has the capacity to do it if they have any muscles at all. And it brings people into trance. My job as a hypnotist is not to impress other hypnotists with cool, fancy, flashy YouTube inductions. My job as a hypnotist is to actually benefit the client who's paying me. So I use a progressive muscle relaxation induction, and then I couple it with autogenic training. Autogenic training sounds fancy, but it's not. Auto, myself, genic, generating from within myself. And I use a process of autogenic training, self-suggestion, to change my perception of my current experience. In the case of a basic hypnotic induction, I have a person create warmth and create heaviness where it previously didn't exist. And in doing so, clients have that aha experience, Carl Rogers, and they say, wow, I really am going into hypnosis. Sometimes I'll actually include into my autogenic induction a convincer. Some of you are familiar with the Ellman induction. Anyone ever hear the Dave Ellman induction? And the first part of that is really before the hypnotic process, having their eyes locked together. I don't like doing that. The reason why I don't like doing that is my client never met me before. They now come into the small office with the strange man in the blue jacket who's dressed like a rainbow. And I stick their eyes together. Right? That's creepy. Okay? What worked in 1940 might have been great in 1940, but we live in a litigious society in 2010, and people don't want their eyes stuck together. So I only use the eye catalepsy, sticking eyes together, when waitresses say, really, hypnotize me, you're a hypnotist? And I do that as a demonstration in public places. It's really kind of fun. But in my office, I never use eye catalepsy. It's 2011, actually. Coming on 2012, people get creeped out when you go into the small office with a strange man you've never met before and then make their eyes stick together. So in my induction, I'll use really what's the same process, but much less threatening. And I'll have the client focus on creating a sense of warmth and heaviness in the hands, and I'll say to them, so heavy that when you try to lift your hands, you'll find they become heavier and heavier. The harder you try to lift your hands, the stucker they'll become. And that test lets the client know, oh my gosh, that's actually happening. I know I couldn't lift my hands right now, but I'm not. Wow. And the internal dialogue they have with themselves is, I really am being hypnotized. Great. Move on then back to progressive muscle relaxation, autogenic training in the feet, and then creative visualization. Because people love to depart the present with visual imagery. Not everybody, but many people. And so I use visual imagery, and then I couple that with a deepener. A deepener is the next phase of the hypnotic process. This is where I have a chance to make sure that I really have the focused participation of the person I'm working with. And then I go into direct suggestions. If you are a hypnotist and you're learning NLP, this is a great place to then use NLP techniques. And as we talk about patterns and techniques tomorrow, after the deepener and formal hypnosis, it's an awesome tool set to use. Following the suggestive therapy component, I then do post-hypnotic suggestions, things they're going to act on when they leave my office. If I'm a stage hypnotist, it'll be silly things they're going to act on when the show is over. But in clinical hypnosis, I'm probably going to give them the following post-hypnotic suggestions. That they're going to listen to the CD I gave them each and every day. It's a post-hypnotic suggestion. Then as they practice hypnosis, they'll find it easier to enter into a state of hypnosis with each successive session. Why wouldn't I make my job easier and help them to experience hypnosis? So those are examples of post-hypnotic suggestions. And then I do an awakening. Now, awakening is really the wrong word because they're never asleep. It should really be reorientation. Because people sell really expensive hypnosis programs all the time based on fear. Oh, you better take our training, because otherwise you might not learn how to safely do hypnosis. Guess what? Take my training, it's $429. And it's the exact same training as their $25,000 training program. Only instead of scaring you into learning how to do it safely, here's what I'm going to tell you. The greatest risk in hypnosis is not hypnosis. It's the client doing this. Falling out of their chair. That's the greatest risk in hypnosis. I've never heard of anyone hurt by hypnosis. You can't get hurt by hypnosis. That would be like saying, oh, you better learn how to breathe safely. Right? There's not a way to breathe unsafely. Well, you better learn how to, I don't know, walk safely. Huh? Yeah, a street can be dangerous, but walking isn't dangerous. Smog might be dangerous, but breathing isn't dangerous. Being disoriented and falling out of the chair that doesn't have any arms might be dangerous. The chair might be dangerous, but hypnosis is inherently a natural process. There is no risk in hypnosis. Now, that doesn't mean that exploitive or abusive hypnotists can't use hypnosis as a vehicle to harm people, but that's far different than hypnosis being the problem. And trust me, even if those abusive, exploitive therapists didn't know hypnosis, they'd find a way to abuse, exploit, and harm other people. So hypnosis isn't what the problem is here. And so I want to reorient the person so that when they get up from the chair, they're oriented to the room and so they don't fall. Because I do pain control and because I do smoking cessation, the average client who I work with is probably in their early 60s. And some of them have some very serious health concerns. Some of them have stability and mobility issues, and I want to make sure that they're really oriented before they get up and leave my room, because that's where you're working with elderly, you're working in hospice, you're working with healthy clients, unhealthy clients. You really want to make sure that they're reoriented to the room, because you don't want that trip and fall. That's where the liability is in clinical hypnosis. So that's the basic process of hypnosis. Here's what I want to do in the time that we have left. I want to guide you through the basic process of hypnosis so that you can see how easy it is to create resource states experientially. And so, before we go any further, what's our timing device? Make sure I can keep the trains running on time. Before we go any further, any questions? We're going to do two things in this hour here. I'm going to guide you through a basic process of hypnosis so you can experience it yourself. And then, since we have this handy-dandy outline, I'm going to let you actually guide a partner through this process. So even if you've never hypnotized anyone before, going through this simple process, you'll actually be able to do it today. And really, when I have you guide somebody through this process, really what we're doing is guiding a person into accessing the resource states that are already within them. That's what hypnosis is. And that's why it's such an effective tool, because it empowers the client. I love hypnosis rather than traditional therapy. There's nothing wrong with traditional therapy, but my clients always felt like in traditional therapy, like I was going to be the problem solver, like I somehow had some magic power, that somehow I had resources that weren't available to them, etc. And in hypnosis, it's not about me. It's really about the client. People say to me all the time, well, you don't spend a lot of time with clients in hypnosis. I typically do 3 to 5 sessions max with a client. Somebody said, well, how come you only do 3 to 5 sessions? The reason why is because I teach them what they need to know in 3 to 5 sessions, and then it's up to them to do it. There's no reason for them to keep coming back to me for the solution. And I'll give you a story here that didn't have a happy outcome that illustrates my point. This just happened a few weeks ago. 57-year-old guy came in my office. He was tugging along his oxygen tank. He had his heart monitor all hooked up to him underneath his shirt. Came in for smoking cessation, quadruple bypass, and 19 stents. Smoking 3 packs a day. And he said, I got it. He said this, I gotta quit smoking. I'm gonna die. And I said to him, wow, you're right. In fact, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. The good news is, it's never too late. And so, even though you have COPD, even though you're on a heart monitor, even though you have 19 stents, even though you had a quadruple bypass, even though you're knocking on death's door, you can actually turn this around and actually begin today reversing some of those effects. So I was really excited to work with the guy. And he seemed to be at that point where he really was ready to make some changes. And so I did my session with him, and I felt pretty good when the session was over, and I gave him a CD. And he told me one of his biggest triggers, he owns a company, was that when he goes in the office by himself and sits down in the chair to do work, that's when he smokes the most. And he'll sit there in his chair for hours and hours. So I made sure in that first session that I gave him some very specific assignments for what to do when he's sitting in the chair to avoid any form of withdrawal. And if he did experience any cravings, how to handle them and manage them instantly. And I made sure that we spent time in the session actually rehearsing and practicing those things. Now, when I see smokers for smoking cessation, they come back 3 days later. So I see you on a Monday, I see you again on Thursday. Because you leave a non-smoker in the first session. I charge $259. You come in the first session for an hour and 15 minutes. Hour, 15 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half. It depends on the client. You leave that session a non-smoker. And then I see you again 3 days later, give or take a day or two, about 3 days later. And this is usually the high five. Hey, high five. And the reason why is they come back and they're successful. Some clients don't come back, by the way. And when I first started doing this, I thought, oh, that's because they started smoking again and it didn't work. And so I started following up on them, because there's nothing worse for your hypnosis business than people who come to see you and then aren't successful. That's not good for business. So I started following up with these people who didn't come to the second session, and I discovered something. They don't come to the second session for the same reason people don't take their antibiotics for 10 days. Okay? See, and I feel great. You mean I'm going to drive all the way back across town, take 2 hours off of work, come spend time with you? Hey, I'll call you back, we'll reschedule this, and then they never do. So at first, when I first started doing this years ago, I thought, oh, they're not making it. Then I discovered when they don't come back for the second session, it's for the same reason that people don't take antibiotics for 10 days. By the way, I don't refund them then 2/3 of their fee. The reality is I charge $259 to help you smoking, whether you come to the sessions or not. Okay? A large portion of people do come to that second session, and the reason why is I really want them to come to it. And so I actually schedule the second session when they leave the first session. At the end of the second session, which we'll touch on any difficulties that they did experience, and any unique needs, issues, etc. But usually it's a short session. I spend about 30 minutes with them, high five, and they're happy as could be, and it's awesome. I do not schedule that third session. What I say to them is this: and you have that third session available to you anytime in the next 90 days for any reason you would like to use it. And of course, 90% don't come to that third session. That's fine with me. The reason I have 3 sessions is it's perceived value. This is marketing. See, clients won't come to, I charge $150 to help you quit smoking, come today. They don't think they can do it in 1 session. And so I offer the 3 sessions because that's what they think they need. But they discover along the path that they really only needed 1 or 2. If they do come for the 3rd session, that's fine. I certainly am glad they're there. Sometimes it's because they had difficulty, but more often than not, they come to the 3rd session because they've learned a lot through hypnosis and they found it to be beneficial and they'd like to learn more. Or because 2 months into this, they've gained a little bit of weight and they'd like me to help them manage that. And sometimes they come in for something totally other. Hey, I have 3 sessions, and I have gout, and I thought maybe you could help me with my pain level or something. So people do come back for that 3rd session. That's perfectly okay too. But that's how I structure the hypnosis services that I do. And so when they come in, I go through this process, this 5-stage process, if you will, and I do that in multiple sessions. By the way, when we talk about the structure of coaching, I structure coaching services initially with the same model of 3 sessions. Because I want a chance to evaluate, are they going to get involved and follow the process? Here's what happened in the 2nd session with the 57-year-old, 19-stent, quadruple bypass, COPD, heart monitor, oxygen tank guy. Came in for the 2nd session, 3 days later. I said, how you doing? Not good. Not good? Why not? I've been smoking. So I can tell, you smell like it. I said, let's talk about what happened. You left here on Monday, and did you smoke on Monday? No. Did you smoke on Tuesday? No. When was the last time you went 24 hours without smoking a cigarette? 36 hours. She said, 20 years. Okay. Wednesday, because I saw him on Thursday. Wednesday, he said, yep, Wednesday, it was yesterday I started smoking again. I said, what happened? He said, well, I sat down in my chair, and I was frustrated, so I asked one of my employees if I could bum a cigarette. And that worked so well that I asked another employee if I could bum a cigarette. That worked out so well that I bummed another cigarette. And that worked out so well that at lunchtime I went over to the convenience store and bought a pack of cigarettes so I wouldn't be bothering my employees, and I've been smoking again ever since. So here's what I said to the guy. Well, the CD I gave you, have you been listening to that every day? No. I said, okay. Remember how when you sit at your chair, there were some specific exercises for you to do? I said, have you been doing those? No. I said, I asked you in the morning to also do this. Did you do that? I said, no. I said, you had a quadruple bypass. You have 19 stents in your heart. You're dragging around an oxygen tank. You're on a heart monitor. You paid me $259 to help you quit smoking, and you didn't do what I asked you to do. In other words, you didn't take the medicine. Again, there are clients who want to stay stuck. Hypnosis can't make anybody do anything that isn't within them to do. And a certain percentage of my clients, for whatever reason, do choose to stay stuck. By the way, it's not the majority. I think for smoking cessation, people who come into my office, people who come to the 2 sessions, probably about 85% success rate over the next 90 days, maybe 90% success rate. So it's really pretty good. So I'm going to guide you through the same process I actually guide my clients through, so that you can experience hypnosis for yourself and feel what these resource states feel like. So with that, kind of push back from the table a little bit. That way you have some room. And since these chairs are not the kind of chairs I would normally do hypnosis on, how do you keep people from falling in your office? Easy, you put them in a recliner. Well, I don't have 17 recliners, so we're going to be in these chairs. So just be attentive so you make sure as you relax you don't topple over here. And put your hands in your lap. That's a great way to begin hypnosis, your feet on the floor. And I kind of prefer a meditative posture like this, where a person's actually sitting with their spine erect. That lets air flow into the lungs rather than a slouchy position. So it's really a great position to begin doing hypnosis. And I'm going to guide you through the basic process of hypnosis so you can feel what hypnosis feels like. Or, another way, what it feels like to intentionally access resource states. And so begin by finding a point on the far wall where you can focus. Some of you are sitting over here, you can focus on that far wall. And there's probably a fleck of paint or a ridge or a shadow or a point. You guys can focus over here. There's probably something over here, a chain, a curtain. You guys are over here. There's probably a point, a book, a knot in the wall over there. And just bring all of your attention to that point on the far wall. And essentially stare at that spot. And there are other distractions going on in the room. I'm wandering around back and forth. There's fans, telephones. People might come in or out. A dog could bark. But even if there are other things going on, just continue to keep your focus on that spot, essentially staring at that spot. And this is really learning number one. Hypnosis is an educational process. And learning number one is that you can focus your attention anywhere you would like to. Even something as simple as a spot on the wall. Now, anytime you stare at something for a period of time, ocular fatigue, eye tiredness sort of kicks in. And what will happen is the spot that you're staring at will become brighter, sharper, crisper, clearer. Or for some people, as their eyes get tired from staring, it becomes hazier and fuzzier and more difficult to see. Some people don't experience any change at all. But just continue to focus on that spot, even if it begins to change a little bit. And then take in a breath. Just breathe in and breathe out. Continuing to stare at that spot, even if your eyes become tired. And as you breathe in and breathe out, let your body begin to relax. Drop your shoulders a bit so you're not holding that tension in your shoulders. If you see any obvious places in your body where you're carrying the tension of the day, let go of that tension. It's okay to adjust for comfort. That'll help you relax even further. But just continue to focus on that spot, and now close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, notice how you can still focus on that spot. It's almost as if you have X-ray vision, which is really a pretty cool learning, and that is that we can focus on things that we cannot see any longer. And now taking another breath and exhale, exhaling away any stress, any concerns, any extra thoughts. And I'm going to focus on physical relaxation here. We carry a lot of tension in the brow and in the jaw, and you can unclench your teeth, and you can let the eyes relax. There's over 200 little micro muscles in the face, even muscles in the eyelids. Let them relax, and you notice eyes become a little heavier. And then let that relaxation spread to your neck and shoulders. And one way to do that is drop your chin towards your chest, simply taking the pressure off your shoulders from holding up your head. And let your head relax by letting that chin fall towards the chest. Feeling relaxation through the muscles of the shoulders and into the arms and into the hands and wrists. Letting that sense of relaxation flow even into the little tiny muscles of the hands. And of course, if you hear any noises outside, airplanes flying overhead, dogs barking, fish jumping, those things won't disturb you, even if you hear people around you. It'll simply help assure you you're exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to be learning. And as you continue to breathe in, breathe out, let those shoulder muscles drop, let those arms relax, and let those hands become heavy, just like the eyelids. And now think of the word heavy. Heavy. And say to yourself, my hands are heavy. And let your hands become heavy. And now think of the word warmth. Warmth like that which might come from the sun, or warmth like that which might come from inside of the body. And say to yourself, my hands are warm and heavy. My hands are warm and heavy. And as you say to yourself, my hands are warm and heavy, let your hands be warm. Let your hands feel heavy. Enjoy that warmth. Enjoy that heaviness in the hands as you relax. As you continue to relax the muscles of the back and the diaphragm, the buttocks, the thighs, the ankles, the calves, even the little tiny muscles of the toes. Bring your attention to your feet, which kind of like your eyelids, kind of like your hands, when they become deeply relaxed, become very heavy. And say to yourself, my feet are warm and heavy. My feet are warm and heavy. And let your feet become warm and heavy as you enjoy earning CEUs with the eyes closed. Let your hands be warm and heavy, your feet be warm and heavy. Let your body become relaxed. Of course, you know with the cognitive, the intellectual part of the mind, you could lift your hands, you could open your eyes if you wanted to. But it feels so wonderful to earn CEUs with the eyes closed and with the hands relaxed that if you try to open them, you'll find they become locked down even tighter. Your hands become even heavier. And as easy as we can relax the body, we can also relax the mind. And so imagine that you're outside on a perfect day underneath a clear blue sky. A place you've been before, a place you'd like to go, or even a place of your own creation. As you focus your attention on the clear blue sky, imagine focusing now on a single white puffy cloud in the sky. And as it begins to move off towards the horizon, lazily and leisurely drifting through the clouds or through the sky, you can cast anything either known or unknown keeping you from success into that cloud, any remaining tension or anxiety, and let it drift off towards the horizon, becoming smaller and smaller, carrying with it anything either unknown or known keeping you from success. And there, of course, will come a point where it simply disappears into the horizon, and it will be at that point that both mind and body are completely relaxed, never asleep, but deeply relaxed. Now I'm going to count backwards now from 5 to 1, and with each number, let yourself become more relaxed. 5, 4, 3, 2, you're doing perfect. 1, 0. Never asleep, but deeply relaxed, enjoying a brief experience in hypnosis and learning, letting yourself access that creative part of the mind where new experiences and new learnings take place. And over the next couple of days, you'll find that the material that you learn is easily remembered and easily recalled. And you'll find that as we practice these exercises, experiential or in the classroom, that you'll intuitively know how to use these with clients and apply those learnings to your own life as well. By the end of the week, having learned magnificent new skills that you can apply to empowering yourself and empowering others. And now pay attention to the state that you've created. I haven't created the state, you have. Of deep physical and mental relaxation, but a state of learning and creativity and even new awarenesses. Any time over the next day or two or three, you need to step back from the business of the world and enter the state. You don't need hypnosis to do that. You can simply close your eyes, take in a breath, and bring yourself right back to right here, right now. And now, of course, it is time to orient to the room around us. And so pay attention to the floor below your feet, to my voice, to the feeling of your hands in your lap. Pay attention to the sounds of the fans on the ceiling. You can even begin stretching out your muscles that need to be stretched, but before you open your eyes, take in a breath and begin to feel energized. Stretch out any muscles that need to be stretched out. And when I count to 3, simply open your eyes, feeling fantastic, having learned something new. 1, taking a breath. 2, getting ready to open the eyes. And 3, feeling fantastic from that short learning experience. Now, here's the question. Think about the way you feel right now. And contrast that to the way you felt 12, 13, 14 minutes ago. Ask yourself this question. Do you feel any different? Either mentally, or physically, or emotionally, or spiritually, politically? I always have politics on the mind. And so, in this, although this was a short, basic experience in hypnosis, how did it feel for you? Did it feel pretty good? How many of you found that process easy to experience, easy to go through? Okay? The majority of people, almost everybody. Anytime you do a group induction, it's sort of one size fits all. It's kind of like a hypnosis CD. It works for most. Sometimes there are people with unique needs. Don't worry. As we go over the next couple of days, we'll figure out ways to meet the needs of that one person, those 2 people, those 3 people who are a little different, who might be in our office. They're really simply learning a different way. It's not that they're not good at hypnosis, it's that I need to teach to the person who I'm working with. I'm going to share with you tomorrow a test, if you will, an assessment tool that I give clients to help me figure out the way that they learn best. But that's really a basic process of hypnosis. It's not complex, it's not difficult. It feels great. And I gave you some direct suggestions. Those suggestions were about learning, about being able to utilize this material in your own life and in the lives of others. Those suggestions, by the way, didn't come from me. They came from you. You asked me to make those suggestions to you. I didn't make them up for you. How did I know that that's what you wanted me to suggest for you? You paid me, you registered, you came to this class. See, people often say to me, how do you know what to suggest to clients? You listen to them. They'll tell you what to suggest. You filled out a form, or you called Stephanie, or you got on the internet and you gave me your credit card number, and you booked a hotel, you booked an airplane, you drove over here, you took time off of work. That tells me what it is that you want. So when we listen to the clients on our caseload, they will tell us what hypnotic suggestions to make for them. The suggestions always come from the client. They never come from me. So this is the basic process of hypnosis. If you ever wondered, how do I hypnotize somebody? That's it. That's it. That's the basic process of hypnosis. I mean, there are a lot of things we can add to it. So this was a crash course in hypnosis. But that's the basic process of hypnosis. And it's in that theta level of brain function where we're most creative that we respond to suggestion. I didn't give you silly suggestions for stage hypnosis here. I gave you the suggestions to facilitate your learning. And so, with that grand introduction, guess what we're going to do? We're actually going to guide somebody else through this process. Now, I did, although an abbreviated version compared to my office setting, really a rather long induction and deepener and suggestion, etc. I took more time than I really want you to do here. But what I'd like you to do, because this class is about doing things, is begin working with somebody to guide them through the process of hypnosis. So you have a little cheat sheet here that actually tells you what the stages and what the steps are. And you do not have to do this perfectly. You do not have to do it in detail. You can skip the pre-talk here in the learning process because we all know what hypnosis is about. But I want you to begin with the induction, and you can simply say to the person that you're working with, hey, I'm going to guide you through this simple learning process. So spend a few minutes focusing on muscle relaxation and or autogenic training. Most of you are already familiar with those techniques. Spend a couple of moments deepening trance. My favorite deepener is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Why? Because that's what Dracula did. And so, because that's what Dracula did, people associate number counting with hypnosis. So when you start counting, they say, wow, I must be getting hypnotized. Okay? And so that's my favorite deepener. And then positive suggestions about learning. And then simply reorienting a person so they feel stable in the chair and in the surroundings. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to practice that. Don't worry if it's not perfect. This isn't about getting it perfect and doing a complete hypnosis session. It's really about watching and talking and attending to somebody else and guiding them through a process. Because if you can guide somebody through this process, you can guide them through any other process we might choose to use in therapy. And so, you guys are partners. You guys are partners.
Just gotta go to the door.
Okay. You guys